Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second season of AI and the Media World, a podcast by Future Media Hubs that explores how artificial intelligence is reshaping the world of media. I am Marijn Goossens, your host, and in each episode we speak with innovators, strategists, and media professionals to understand how AI is transforming the way stories are created, distributed, and experienced, and what that means for the future of media. Joining me today is Abel Enklaar from VPRO Media Lab. Within VPRO Media Lab, Abel works on projects and reflections around trust, authenticity, and the future role of public media. In an increasingly AI-driven information ecosystem, they are exploring how media organizations can remain credible, human, and authentic in a rapidly changing technological landscape. Hi Abel. So glad to have you here in our studio. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice. Excited to be in Antwerp today for the technology forum.
So from where do you
I
come?
come from Amsterdam.
From Amsterdam.
It's
Okay,
surprising
lovely.
how close we actually are.
Yeah.
I'm so used to thinking that to go to Belgium, it's quite a long trek, but it's
Well, if you drive, you know when you're in Belgium.
Yeah.
You notice it very fast that you're at the border.
I'm not gonna comment. No comments.
Did you come in train?
Yes, train.
Bike? No.
I know we Dutch cycle, but no.
No. Okay, amazing. And you're also going to the event later today, right?
Yeah.
Are you excited about something special at ETF today?
Well, so I was on the show floor earlier this morning, and I think it's so interesting to have this. Usually, we from sort of the media side, we don't really engage with sort of the hard tech that's happening, but being on the show floor and seeing like real, where is human robotic interaction going? What is quantum technology going to do? I think it's so exciting to be sort of with us media makers, broadcasters in this hard tech field, because things are sort of merging more and more with the eruption of AI.
And also, like tech and media, they're not really separate anymore
No,
nowadays, right?
No, not at all.
They used to be more separate, but I feel they're getting more connected. Do you feel the same, or?
Totally. When I think it was someone from the NPO or the NOS in the Netherlands, one of the editors in chief, who said something she heard at Perugia, the big journalism festival. She said that in the future we might need to consider ourselves technology companies with a few journalists employed.
With a few.
You still need some.
Yeah. And maybe to dive a bit into things that you do, are you also a technologist? Where do you work? What do you do?
Yeah, so originally I do come from technology. I had a huge interest in virtual reality, augmented reality, and I came from sort of the production side as a director, technologist. And over the last few years, I've moved into broadcasting and as the sort of head of innovation at the VPRO, leading the VPRO Media Lab, which is our innovation department where we really look forward at how our technologies, new inventions actually changing the way that we consume media, we produce media, and how broadcasters should interact with our audiences.
Okay. And I assume that's quite challenging job nowadays with the world of AI and everything that's emerging, or?
I don't know. Sometimes it is. I come from having a love for old school hardware stuff, making things, and it becomes a bit fluid now. But at the same time, I feel the last year it's become much easier. Like my team, which is an interdisciplinary team of journalists, designers, programmers, and to go from a first idea to a prototype with the use of vibe coding or the support of LLMs, we produce so much now. So the difficulty maybe becomes more about choosing what is the right project. But actually the jump, we become so more productive.
So you feel AI is really enhancing your productivity and giving you a lot more tools?
A lot more tools. And it also finally made, I think finally is maybe a big... journalists can be quite a conservative group of people. They're skeptics. They like to question everything. But AI has become such a big boom that they have to engage with it. So my team, we have much more conversations now with the rest of the VPRO because everyone feels that we need to do something with AI. And my team has like a decade-long experience experimenting with these sort of technologies. So people become actually more excited, also fearful. But also there's more of an urge that we need to do something, and innovation is no longer something that's just stuck away in some basement. No, the innovation teams are really being embraced, I feel now, because journalists feel the urgency.
So you feel less resistance towards AI and these technological advancements, or?
I think it depends per generation. I meet a lot of the younger journalists who are really anti-AI.
Anti-AI, the younger,
A younger generation.
Okay, that's interesting.
They feel sort of backlash. I think it also has to do a lot with the fear of their job security. A lot of what would be entry-level work is more easily automated. Checking guests, finding sources. Like people more easily now just put a big interview into transcription software, and that used to be like entry-level job. Find the right quote. So maybe that is something that I see older journalists know what they need to ask from an AI oftentimes, and they're less worried about being automated themselves, maybe. And rightfully so, I don't know.
and do you feel, okay, some people are more skeptical on it, maybe the younger generations, but they're open to learn more, and you're also organizing a lot of workshops and training internally to help this change? Or?
Yeah, we do see there's such a hunger for knowledge about what this technology will do to our work. And we do collaborate also externally with a lot of students, and we organize hackathons where we invite students from IT departments, from journalism departments into our organization, and really offer them like a challenge. Say, okay, how can we engage more with different community platforms? What could you build? And just the ease with which people now produce new ideas and give them a body, give them a first prototype. That's such a win. And once people see that, they become very, very excited.
Yeah. Did something come out of the hackathon? I'm curious. Do you do a lot of ideas generate, or is it very inspirational?
A lot of ideas are generated. So many we don't always have funding for it, and we also invite other broadcasters and what they then do with those projects up to them. But I think a really good project that came out of one of the hackathons was a chatbot that would be a sort of representation of marginalized voices. For example, for news correspondents where they can't speak freely, we used a RAG system, so retrieval augmented generation, sort of help these stories get anonymized, and you could chat with a Taiwanese dissident, for example. It's completely developed by students as a first inspiration.
Would never be possible before.
No, and in 2 days they come up with a workable prototype that has all these sort of complex components.
It's actually with democratizing technology somehow, right?
I think so. I think it really, AI has the potential of like lowering the barrier of entry. Like anyone with a good idea can vibe code a journalistic tool. Where before you might need a whole IT department to host that.
And big budgets, innovation, etc.
In the same way, the phone actually sort of democratized the smartphone, and using it for filming democratized a lot of media creation.
Okay.
This is the next step where we can start to really democratize maybe tool creation.
Software,
yeah.
So I think that this rise of AI, vibe coding, the platforms, conversational frameworks, they're really integrating the media system, right? I mean, we're talking in this season with people from Roularta, DPG. We've had in the first season VRT. So we cannot separate AI from the media world anymore. That's also why we call it AI in the Media World podcast. But there's this one word hanging a little bit where we're all very anxious about, and especially in the age of AI, even without AI, it was already an issue, but now it becomes more something to think about, and that's trust. What do you think about trust? Is it something you work on regularly? What's a bit your vision on it?
I think it's really good what you said. It's an issue that was there before, and maybe AI amplifies some sort of cracks in the foundation of media and journalism that were already there. I think we have to be careful not to just point at AI and go, this is the problem, we have to fix it, because before the rise of AI, fake news, influencers, politicians that would just post lies, it's always been there. And also there's been huge groups of audiences who actually turned away from mainstream media, trying to find maybe a more authentic voice that aligned with their experience of life. And we need to take those things serious. So yeah, AI is sort of highlighting the ease at which false facts and imagery can be generated, created. But the question of trust, do I trust a media brand and media outlet, has been there for a long time already.
And do you think AI will have more negative impact on it, or can AI maybe also be used as a tool to enhance trust, maybe, or?
Both. It definitely will have a negative impact if wrong actors use it. But we also believe that it can be a huge benefit to trust because it allows you to spend, for example, less time on the boring stuff like moderation, and it can make so that where we now would have a online editor spend a lot of time in comment sections just sort of moderating what's being said, you'd actually prefer that person to be there to interact with your audience, not just hide comments. But now we don't have budget to have someone really interact with people. If we can leave the sort of moderation, what's allowed to stay online, to an AI that we use with the VPRO, now these online journalists have more time to actually create meaningful interaction with an audience. Same as why do we have journalists spend so much time editing content for social? That's such a repetitive task.
Yeah.
I want them to prepare the next conversation. I want them to get engaged with our audiences.
Yeah, because it's important for journalism to, be trusted, and I think transparent work also is important here. I read a bit about your project, the Glass House of Journalism.
Yeah, there's a sort of a recap of a project we did back
Okay.
in 2018, which was called Trace, which we wrote in like a Dutch playful way, TREES, which in an app store is trees, and there are many apps that are about about trees and going for walks. So it was actually a big failure in that sense, really a failed project because we never figured out sort of the app economy of it.
Okay.
But it was this idea back in 2017. We wanted to create a project that would invite audiences to travel along with our journalism team. So it was a podcast platform because there was no big sort of podcasting platform back then. Podcasts weren't on Spotify. So you were really like really into podcasts if you had your own podcast player on your phone. So we created our own app, and with that also modes of interaction. So you could add visuals to a podcast feed, for example. So what it was a news team, investigative journalists who would focus on stories that we thought mattered to a younger audience, say 20, 25-year-olds in the Netherlands. So it was about drugs, it was about healthcare, it was about woman differences in society. And every sort of investigative thread would start with a redactievergadering, a editorial board meeting, where they would talk about the subject, and they would say, one of them would say, I'm going to look into the financial backing of this. And I would say, I'm going to talk with some politicians. And they would sort of start on this investigative journey, and you could follow each individual journalist throughout the trajectory of this investigation. Because we really thought the problem about journalism and trustworthy journalism is that oftentimes we publish a result that we've been working on for months, but you never knew we were working on it. How can you trust us if you don't see the work? How can we learn what our audience cares about? So we wanted to create a platform in which actually our audience could follow along with our journalists, leave comments, interact, and we could take them on with us to really create an investigative journalism platform that would respond to audiences' needs, questions, and make it as accessible as possible.
And is that not a bit a dangerous thing to do? Because you open up the house and everyone follows everything?
It's scary. So we really looked to find a team that was young journalists, but with an experienced leader who were really excited by the idea of trying something new that they had never done before. There was also not much comparatively. We talk about something, the idea started maybe 10 years ago. So it was a completely different media ecosystem in which it was launched. Sadly, that also meant it didn't survive. At some point, the sort of experimental funding ended. And now we're desperately sort of trying to say please
you need to do it again.
Let's just do it again.
To know what the results are.
Because it was ahead of its time. And now we see that young people want to engage more with individual journalists. All newspapers have these like little headshots now that they add to articles, where it used to be something sort of dirty. As a journalist, you didn't want to engage personally with others. The work stand on its own. Already we were thinking, no, we need people to actually get to know these journalists and their specialties. And sort of feel a familiarity with their work, so that they, feel why we're doing this research and that they're represented in this research.
And are you trying something a bit similar already today, maybe in a very small
We
shape,
are
or-
thinking, and as a larger in the VPRO, we are thinking more about how can our sort of classical journalistic titles be a bit more sort of social friendly, if that's maybe a dirty word, but we have brilliant journalists, but who were classically trained to not bring their sort of own personality in their work, and we're telling them, no, we want you to write an opinion piece on LinkedIn. We want you to make a video where you say what you care about, because we think that through knowing our journalists, our audience might engage more with their work.
And do you feel that this authenticity is needed by the audience? Do they crave for it? For that?
I think, and that's maybe something that we can really see as a sort of counter movement in the AI boom, is that with so much content being available, so much sort of endless feeds being generated day to day, maybe people are looking more and more for who is an authentic voice, who is the author, can I trust this author, do I relate to this author? Because it's so easy to just consume sort of anonymous content, that to really position yourself, especially in sort of the news space, you want to know who is this, who's sending this to me, this story.
And do they really consider the fact that this is a real human, or is it just the way that they can follow someone like a human? Imagine
I'm
AI
curious.
UGC.
We are a part of a larger research project with the Breda University of Applied Science, also into virtual humans, which we hope in a few years we can start to do actual in production experiments with virtual human broadcasters.
What do you want to investigate?
Because I do think that's the adaptability that AI offers to media, this idea of sort of a fluid media. It could also be actually hugely beneficial to trust. We like to think that trust is generated through like authenticity of like a real human, real sender. But sometimes I think, have we not lost our listener, our reader, our viewers? Also because maybe sometimes the story gets told too much about from a general perspective. And say we both are now looking into, say we are audiences and we both want to look up a story about some economic situation in the EU, in Brussels. You are an expert. You know a lot. I'm a huge noob. I need like a Brussels politics and economics for dummies. You might want to delve really, really deep. If we create this article or this broadcast as a sort of adaptive format, you could get served in a way that fits you and makes you engage with this topic. And I could still get served in a way that I can engage with the topic. So having the classic sort of one-size-fits-all model maybe also has skewed away some people from media. I think there was a latest USO report about, which is the education levels in Europe and the world. And I don't know the exact number, so we have to put this maybe on the screen. But it said that of the 15-year-olds in the Netherlands leaving school, 35 to 40% have almost like can't read. They can't distinguish opinion and fact in a written article.
Yeah, I've seen those stats as well. It's insane to see how much people cannot separate that.
And then we just think, okay, that's their problem. But what if we can create content that can actually adapt to people's reading level, that can understand what prior knowledge you have? So I'm not overwhelming you with facts that don't make sense to you.
And because we want to look at trust, would we want some kind of a liquid format where the same article rewrites itself depending on my own context or my own expertise level? Or do we want to create a lot of human creators that tell different versions of the same story? Because if it's fully generated itself, we're looking at native AI content, but maybe for trust, that's again an issue. Or
I wonder. Yeah. I wonder. This is something that we'll have to. We have our sort of standards now, and there's no native AI without the human supervision.
Yeah.
I worry if that's.
Will that last?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You think?
I think that the economic pressures on newsrooms
yes. That's true.
Will rise to a level where at some point, if you want to create meaningful experiences to as broad enough audiences and you want to keep your costs down, at some point, newsrooms will transition to just AI native
Autonomous newsrooms
agents.
creating
And
their own
we see it
content.
already. It's happening at the AD, who have their gemeentepagina, so municipality pages, which I think is great. I mean, say every municipality has their own homepage where they produce stories. Right now, they still have journalists who fact check it, but in fact, it's just an agent workflow that puts a news bulletin from a municipality, from a local sporting organization, parse it through their writing LLM, and just puts it on the page. And there's only a journalist sort of checking it off.
Seal of approval.
Yeah.
And maybe that could help for trust, that we go to fully liquid platforms, generative content, but where you can see which journalist or human verifies this, or is available for questions.
Something like that. Where there's accountability. How did we post it? And I wonder. I think this is a balance that we have to check. Like, what does more for trust? Having your municipality actually get serious news that before you wouldn't get, right? Because we said it's not profitable enough to make a story about a small town somewhere. I think that also hurts trust a bit. So how much trust do we gain by actually seeing everyone's sort of experience and creating a space where everyone feels represented in their media?
Yeah, but that's a complex question, because you're going to generate a lot of different variations of content, and for different communities, you want to serve everyone, and there's not the money to put humans everywhere. What's your ideal vision of a trusted media world that enhances technology? Do you want to see budgets increase to have enough people checking it? Do you want good ethical guidelines from the EU, for example?
Yeah,
how would you see
all
the
of
future?
that definitely. more funding, better guidelines is always good. I really would like to challenge media to think more about how do we really create value for audiences. So not to utilize AI sort of randomly just to have fewer people on staff so you can produce quicker and quicker. But now, where does the actual value lies?
Adding the value with the AI tools, not just putting the technology on it.
No, exactly. And not just using it because you can't be bothered to hire an extra journalist to cover court cases and you just go, let's automatically translate it. But really think, where could this transform your relationship with audiences? Can it bring you closer to them? Can it offer them more insight in how a story actually came to be? So maybe like adding this idea of like extendable articles where you can chat with like the sources, for example.
Yeah, conversational
interfaces for.
I think a lot of studies have shown it's a bit crazy that a lot of people, especially from Gen Z, find that they have somehow a meaningful relation with AI. So the way they chat with the system gives them a sort of a connection with that
These
system.
systems are very good in making you feel seen, making you feel valued. Is there danger that's why they creep into places like therapy or healthcare without supervision? And we need to be careful. That's same in journalism. But I do think the feeling of being able to hold a conversation. This has already been back in the day. The first chatbot, Eliza, was developed by a psychologist. It has no intelligence. It just picks up certain keywords in your sentence and then repeats it back to you. So you say, oh, I'm a bit sad today. Say, oh, sad. How do you mean? Just does that. And in the first test, when the assistant of the psychologist was chatting with it, she said to the psychologist, can you go? Because I'm really having a conversation here. Okay. So chatbots, just this idea of the way we communicate with each other, that can be reproduced in technology, in media. I think it's very strong. Like, how you talk with your friends, that can be really much more intimate than watching a broadcast that's just static.
Yeah. But maybe because those conversations, they also create a certain relationship between you and the system, and you might start trusting the system, but maybe at a certain point you trust that system more than you would trust a human.
Yeah.
Because you have a certain relationship with the system.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big question for us as a media industry on how to deal with it.
And I think, will we want these systems then to be in the hands of tech providers, or do we feel like we need to create sort of public alternatives for it?
Who's in control? Because I have the feeling that, we used to be in control of our own industry. Like years ago, there are technological evolutions, but we might also demand this evolution. But nowadays, I feel we're flooded with technological innovation, and we have to learn how to deal with them. Do you think that's a good approach? Do you want to see it differently?
I think we could
how
be,
should we deal with
I
it?
think we could be a bit more aggressive as an industry. I think we're still being quite watchful, sort of waiting on the sideline and letting the same what happened with like social media. But if these like AI technologies really start to take the place, these chatbots really start to take the place of, so to say, parts of education, healthcare, access to entertainment, because that's what they really do. They sort of sit in this vector, in this sort of space that we used to be at. We were the ones having a direct conversation with our audiences. We couldn't hear each other because it was going through cable or it was going through the airwaves. But we sent something and the audience directly received what we were broadcasting. And what these technologies do is that they repackage actually what we are putting out, right?
They came in between us.
They come in between.
Yeah,
and
they're the messenger.
And then that offers a really benefit to the audience, because what I said, if I have a very low reading ability, I can ask a ChatGPT or a Claude. I can say, I don't understand what it says. Help me with this. But we tell stories with a certain idea in mind, right?
Yeah.
As the broadcasters, the media makers, the TV makers, they edit for a reason. They say, this is how I want to tell it in this order. And
the narration is important.
Exactly, and when and contextualization. What do you show and in which context? And if these systems just sort of suck up all that content and repackage it and rebroadcast it without us having any control or any influence in how it is, that's going to be very dangerous for our relationship with the audience.
Yeah, because the director seat has been taken a little bit. Like we direct content, we send it out, but it doesn't reach the public. It's redirected by the system. Do you think they care, the technological providers, if it's trustworthy content or what they create?
I think history has proven they don't.
Or do you have to give a political correct answer?
There are some, and there are some really great European parties, for example, that we have had conversations with that really try to sort of also audit what content is used to create sort of their LLM. But in essence, the sort of the big tech players, the history of sort of social media has proven that they don't care as much about the factfulness of what is posted as much as they care about engagement and audience retention.
Yeah, and how many platforms on the user, how addictive the feed is, how many time you spent on those platforms, fight for the attention span. I think there are some convictions even in court, that's like in lawsuits nowadays. So maybe we should learn from social media. Is that what you're saying? Like,
I think it's definitely. We are at risk of repeating the pattern where we really trusted these platforms because early days Facebook really boosted, for example, news articles and links out of the platform. And at some point they just turned the dial down, said we don't really want people to leave our platform. So we're not going to support your platforms through our... And the same is happening now with AI. You see how much the sort of automated answering in like Google search, for example, it's really reducing the click-through rate for a lot of media organizations, which is important. It's where exactly.
Are there things we can do against that? Should we block scrapers, AI systems on our pages?
I think we should formalize it. So using different, we're currently doing a few experiments with, for example, MCP, which is a sort of connector. So they promote it as a technology sort of being the USB-C of LLMs.
Okay.
So it's a way of structuring our data so that they become queryable through an LLM, but we can be certain that it's our data.
Yeah. So we decide what we give instead of that system just walking in our house and
scraping it as if it's a human just going through our page. We say, actually, this is structured data. This is the metadata of certain videos. This is what you can use if someone asks something about a VPRO program. So we are experimenting with ways that we can sort of structure our presence in these platforms because we want to be certain that our voice is still heard when people look at us through a LLM interface.
And that you're quoted correctly.
Exactly.
Because if they say like, VPRO is saying this and it's not correct,
exactly,
you're losing click-through rate and you're also misinterpreted, like miscited. Besides the first project we discussed, are there other projects on trust you're working on
I think
nowadays?
A big one that I hope will contribute to trust in especially the use of AI within media is this project we have, which is called public value benchmarking,
Okay.
which is this idea that when we started looking into using different models, using different providers, we noticed that online there were a lot of benchmarks that were really good for showing how strong a model was, how expensive, how big. But there was not really a lot of benchmarks for things like how privacy protected is it, how good is it or bad for the environment. And we were inspired by this platform in the Netherlands, which is called the Honest Bank Guide, which sort of just shows you how banks talk in their yearly reports about if they invest in weapons, if they invest. So we decided, what if we create a sort of benchmarking system so that we can explain to our audience how and why we use certain tools? Because it's always a trade-off. There is no perfect technology, I think. And what we wanted to be able to communicate to audiences and to have journalists think about was, okay, if we use this tool for internal brainstorming, how much do we care about that it's exactly right? Do we care maybe more that it's quick? Do we care maybe more that it is good for the environment or doesn't have the least amount of CO2 contribute, for example? We have a different standard for the tools we use in our production process than we have for tools that we send out in interaction with our audience. If we send out a chatbot to our audiences and there's no human oversight in it, I think accuracy, I'd want more accuracy, and I'm willing to trade off some environmental impact. So we just wanted to create a sort of a tool that was not prescriptive, as in say, yes, you can use this, no, you can use that. We wanted to create a tool that actually allowed journalists and teams to have a conversation about what values do we want to be present in our AI products that we use, and how can we communicate that to an audience, saying when you interact with our webpage, for example, there's a chatbot that can communicate with you, and it might not be the most quick, but it's the most accurate we can get. Yeah. So that we create a sort of level of transparency, not just about what tools you use, because what does it say to an audience that you say, oh, we used the Llama 03 model? Yeah. So no, we use this model because it scored in our assessment this much on environmental friendly impact, this much on there was no worker abuse in the creation of this model, this much on privacy.
But is that not a difficult thing? Because who sets those benchmarks? Say you do, but maybe there's different interpretations.
So it's not a prescriptive model, as in saying this is the right benchmark. It's just how scoring a tool on your own terms. So it's really a conversational.
Like, what does CPRO think about this model, for example?
And what do individual teams? Because some team that's working on a fiction production might have really different standards for what accuracy means than a team that works on geopolitical reporting.
So again, what you're doing here, which is a little bit the same as the first project we discussed that you did a while ago, is creating transparency. Like, show what you do, why you make decisions. And it's interesting because I talk with a lot of people about trust, and here you're linking this trust immediately to transparency, like showing where things come from or why decisions are made. Do you think that's an important relationship between those two concepts?
I think it is a value for me personally from which I build trust. Is this auditable? Can I ask you questions about why you have done this? I think maybe I don't come from a journalism background. I come from an educational background. Okay. And so maybe the journalist is classically trained in sort of wait with publishing until you're certain about something.
Yeah, quality of standards.
Exactly, and I'm much more used to this idea. Like we should be honest about that. We can make mistakes, that we can fail. And that's to be trusted is not that you never make mistakes, but it's that people know that if you do make a mistake, you're accountable, and that your process is so transparent that it can be questioned.
Okay,
because people don't have to trust us.
Yeah,
I think skepticism is a good thing. I think a lot of people have a very skeptic attitude, and so do we.
Yeah.
So you can say, oh, what you're publishing is like this leftist piece. Say, no, look at what we did.
Yeah.
Do you not agree with the process? Oftentimes they do actually say, yeah, okay, I see. It's interesting that you talked with these people, talked with that.
Yeah, that it's going to be interesting because don't you feel like audiences are getting more skeptical than before, or is it the same?
I think, and part of that is the revolution of the internet, that you just have so much more choice what you tune into and out. And like you see the current situation in Iran, the war that's going on, and you could watch CNN, but you could also watch Al Jazeera. And they're both journalistic platforms, but they tell a story with very different contextualization. And before, you couldn't find these channels, or you had to have a massive satellite dish installed. So I think the media ecosystem which we're in that supports skepticism, because there's so much info that, as a citizen, I completely understand.
And are there not also like echo chambers, like where what you want to hear is what you will get?
Yeah. There's a really interesting study as well by the University of Utrecht on the School of Journalism there, where I don't know if the word but I used this idea of factfulness, which is that it's AI LLMs are really good at presenting things to sound true. And like in a study of audiences, they found that people actually don't care as much about if something is true. When they use an LLM to ask something, they want to get a feeling of truthfulness. But the actual truth, they don't care as much about it feeling true.
But that's a bit of a scary thought, because if it sounds true but it's not true, then you might communicate. And maybe there's also a story online which is communicated as true. You think it's true, and you communicate it to your peers.
Yeah.
And they will think it's true as well because they trust you, but you trusted the system that maybe is not as true.
But I think here now, this is, I think, thank you, because
okay.
I think this is why the transparency matters to me so much. I think in this era, we should really look at journalism as a sort of educational tool. So it's less about the products of our process, as more as I think we need to teach doing journalism to audiences. What does it mean to try to falsify your assumptions? What does it mean to do ask someone for a quote? You say, I heard you said something about this. Would you care to respond? So in these times where people's literacy levels go down, where there's so much information, should we give them more journalism, or should we teach everyone to conduct sort of more rigorous journalistic approaches in their own life?
So they learn a bit more how it is themselves.
Learn the process. There was this old school assumption that you become a better human by consuming journalism. You hear good stories about the world, they're thorough, they're fact-checked, and you become a better person through that. I think that's maybe a bit outdated. Just consuming the stories don't really make you into maybe a much more balanced person. Maybe learning how these stories come to be. What makes a good interview? What makes fact-checking something? How do you challenge your assumptions? These sort of qualities that we think are inherent to journalism, finding out the truth. That's something we want our audience to become better at. And I think these very skeptic audiences are maybe the best group of people. They already have the skepticism, but now they still maybe default to something that they feel should be true instead of what actually is true.
So they care more about what they like to be true instead of what is really true.
And I think being a journalist, you get taught that you might have a story in mind, but if it's just not true, it's not your story.
Yeah, and you should accept that it's not true.
Exactly. You should accept. Oh shit! This would have been so nice if this happened this way, but it didn't.
It's a bit like in leading research. Like sometimes research is not done correct because you search for something that you want to find instead of being open for whatever that comes out of the research.
And I think it's these methodologies that I think for the future of journalism in the AI age, we should really be focusing on sharing our methodologies with audiences rather than just our products.
Whoa, already so much interesting info. I'm going to have to round off a little bit. I've heard you talk a lot about everything related to this trust, authenticity, transparency in the creation process, methodology. Do you look positive or negative towards the future, 5 years, 10 years in terms of trust?
I like to always look positive, but there's a lot of work. But I think we can do it if we take it seriously, the challenge. If we don't, if like media leaders really wake up and see that investing in AI is not just an opportunity to automate your teams, but really see it as a fundamental challenge to our field, and as an exciting opportunity to redesign maybe what we thought always our job was. Say no, we can do so much more. So I am optimistic.
If on leadership level the right decisions are made.
If we go for it, if we say this is we don't wait, but we actively take on the challenge, saying okay, let's redefine what our task is.
Okay, maybe a good call to action for everyone listening in the media industry. Take on the trust challenge. I think a lot of us already are. Yeah. Besides the more experienced media professionals listening to this podcast, we also have young media professionals listening who are entering the space. They're also sometimes a bit afraid or anxious about AI and the revolutions in this industry. Is there like a piece of advice you could give to them?
Yeah, of course. I think try not to automate away your own thinking. It's always important. Also really see what this technology allows you to do more. Not just what it allows you to do faster, but what are like radical new products, new stories that you can make with these technologies, rather than just having it automate the writing for you, for example.
Yeah, so not just do the same, but faster or more in quantity, but also see what can be done different.
Don't do the same faster or more.
Yeah.
Do something new.
Yeah. Don't make the horse with 6 legs, but make the car.
Yeah, exactly. It's what's the Marshall McLuhan, the media theorist, said. We're walking backwards into the future.
Okay, we're walking backwards into the future.
So we're looking back. That's why
we're looking at what we're doing already.
And that's why they thought we'd all have flying cities as zeppelins, and then someone invented the plane.
And we couldn't fly in zeppelins anymore. Yeah. Too bad. Okay, thank you so much, Abel, for all this interesting information, for this super interesting and important chat. I love we had this conversation. I think it's important to have. If people are interested in your work and your ideas, where can they follow you?
They can find it on vpro.nl/Media Lab. We have our page. We have a page on LinkedIn, VPRO Media Lab. And I occasionally publish on Substack about challenges coming from media and strategies to encounter them on the field notes from Future Media.
Okay, so on the VPRO website and on Substack.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abel, for this chat.
Thanks for having me.
So that was our second episode of Season 2 of AI and the Media World. If you enjoyed this conversation, consider sharing it with colleagues or friends or anyone who is interested in AI, journalism, or media innovation. You can always find more insights, cases, and updates on the Future Media Hub's website or follow Future Media Hubs on LinkedIn. In the next episode, we will look at how AI can completely reshape the way journalism is created and consumed, from conversational interfaces to vertical video and adaptive or liquid storytelling. We'll explore what happens when media itself becomes liquid after all. I am Marijn Goossens. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Abel, for listening.